All right. Welcome everyone to Ideas first Idea Chat. I'd like to welcome everyone. This is a really great event. We're launching Global Entrepreneurs Week with this first chat with Kyle Blumin. My name is Tony. I'm the Assistant Director of the Idea Accelerator at Syracuse University. And the purpose of these chats is to break outside the mold and really break down what entrepreneurship means to the people that are involved in entrepreneurship. So we are going to be interviewing this entire week with entrepreneurs, investors, startup owners, and students. So without further ado, I will invite our guest, Kyle Blumin, who's a serial entrepreneur, a Syracuse University alum. And today we're going to talk about entrepreneurship in Central New York and how that's going to change this region. And for all of those that are not in Central New York viewing today, some of the things that we're going to talk about surely are going to be applicable to the areas that you live in too. So if at any point in time you have questions, feel free to hit the little question box here and we will answer them live on the air. Oh, I think we lost Kyle. Okay. Let me invite him back on. So sorry about that, some technical difficulties. Send him invitation. In the meantime, while we're waiting for Kyle to get back, I'll just tell you a little bit about what we're at Syracuse. So Syracuse University has over 16,000 students, many of them involved in anything from engineering to information technology, arts, sciences, you name it, there's a student doing it. The Idea Accelerator, the Idea Accelerator's purpose is to connect all these students together, students with different ideas, collaborating with one another across campus and not just within their schools. We are connectors. We connect them to resources on campus, off campus, and to any other person out there, regardless of where they come from, to help these businesses and these ideas move forward. So it looks like we have Kyle back on. Here we go. So,
Good morning.
morning, Kyle. How's it going?
Great, great. Hopefully we don't have any more technical glitches here, but it'll work out just fine.
Okay, no problem. No problem. So I was just going on about what we're doing at Syracuse University, but now that you're on, welcome to our first Idea Chat launching Global Entrepreneurs Week. And for our viewers, could you please just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure.
We know that you've started a number of businesses, so just hop right into it.
Hopefully you can put up with my voice. I'm fighting a cold here, so you do that.
That's fine.
It should be a pretty productive conversation.
All right.
Yeah, I actually I graduated from Syracuse in '93, and I went to work in a family business that was a waste services company. We provided waste hauling, waste stream management for large national chains, and the company had tremendous problems. I won't get into all of it, but it was losing a lot of money, and just a lot of really big hurdles to overcome. And that was my first foray into business. Everything up to that point had been theoretical, and it was probably the worst experience I had, but the best thing that ever happened to me, because I learned an unbelievable amount that really became the foundation for what I was able to do going forward. So we got that company turned around, and actually it was acquired about 5 years later. I then, excuse me, I then went and found a facility services company that was just about to enter bankruptcy. And given my past experience in turning around companies, in the turnaround of the company that I was in, I thought this might be a good opportunity for me. So I actually I bought the company and turned that one around as well, and ended up selling that about three and a half years later to a company from Minnesota that was doing a roll-up of those similar kinds of services.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so those first two worked out pretty well, and then I had thought a lot about actually leaving upstate New York. At the time, especially in the mid to late '90s, and even into the early 2000s, there was just not a lot of opportunity here. The place was, quite
Really?
frankly, was dying, um,
Oh man.
and had been for some time. So I wanted to leave. My wife actually wanted to stay. So I started looking around, and there weren't a lot of opportunities or deals that I could look at to acquire. So in the meantime, during that time period, my mother had passed away from lung cancer. She was a smoker. And I watched what happened and how she had to navigate the healthcare system and the costs involved. And so first I thought to myself, well, if she didn't smoke, she wouldn't have had the access to the healthcare system. But because she did, and because she ended up with lung cancer, her chemotherapy at that point in the late '90s was about $500,000. And I thought, wow, not only uh, did her health go downhill, and she ended up passing away from smoking, but there must be other lifestyle related issues that people have um, that that actually cost the system. So I started doing some investigation. Sure enough, at least 40, depending on what you read, at least 40, if not 70% of all costs that we bear in the system are related to personal lifestyle choices. And so I myself lost 60 pounds actually when I was in college, and I've kept it off just due to lifestyle. And so I started thinking, well, if you could educate health plans and self-insured employers with regards to the benefits of that, and then prove it from a data standpoint, you probably could create a business case around that. And so I started to do some more research, and actually got a few customers early on. And it took a while to gain traction, but it worked. And and so we had customers all over the country, self-insured employers, health plans. We had a large boutique medical practice with about 500 physicians around the country that used our services with their patients. And and that company was acquired in 2010. Uh,
Oh wow.
and so
Very
I
nice.
worked for them for just under 2 years, and now I'm providing mentorship and um, kind of spreading the word, if you will, with regards to why upstate New York is different, what's
Hmm.
changed, and why it really, really is a great place to start a company.
Okay, so you know what? Let's talk about that a little bit. So first, for who are not really familiar with entrepreneurship and what it means to really be an entrepreneur, one of the factors with myself dealing with students and trying to encourage them to engage in entrepreneurship is that they have these ideas of what an entrepreneur is. They think of, the Steve Jobs of the world and these really big personalities, and I'd like, for our audience to get your opinion on what is an entrepreneur, and um, taking a look at upstate New York then and now. Why is Central New York a really great place to engage in entrepreneurship?
Um, so certainly Steve Jobs is an entrepreneur, or was.
Oh, certainly,
Um,
certainly, certainly.
Certainly, people like Mark Zuckerberg and others that you read about um, in headlines or online all day long. Um, the reality is that there are millions of people across this country that come from all walks of life that have created all kinds of different businesses and been very successful at that. And so, to me, an entrepreneur is somebody that actually um, sees an opportunity in the market that maybe somebody isn't taking advantage of, somebody hasn't filled a role or a niche for, um, and actually provides value to an end customer. And for that, realizes financial gain. And to me, it's pretty simple. If you can provide value to a customer over time, and figure out a way to charge for that value, you can be an entrepreneur. And it doesn't have to be in tech. It can be in service. It can be in a number of different arenas. My first foray, like I said, into business was in waste hauling. It's not sexy, but it works. And my last was healthcare technology. So, it's really about finding the opportunity and providing value to customers.
Awesome, awesome. And so now you started back when there weren't many opportunities, and so how have things changed? What opportunities exist for those who want to take that step and become entrepreneurs?
So if you look at the issue or the problems that upstate New York had, and I'm defining upstate New York as basically from Buffalo to Albany, um, down to Binghamton, and maybe as far down as Orange County, down past the Catskills. And if you look at what happened there, it was obviously a large manufacturing base, largely driven by large multinational companies, and very stoic in its behavior. Um, and when that all started to fall apart, when manufacturing started to leave the region, a lot of people left, and those that were there were still stoic in their behavior. And what I mean by that is that there wasn't a lot of collaboration. It became a place with people with a lot of sharp elbows. Um, this is mine, stay away from it. Instead of collaborating around how can we help each other to build on what successes we already have. And I think that really was the downfall that created a lot of problems for the region. And in part, it was all about the culture of the region. I can tell you, because I've been here my entire life, and what I would describe as suffered through that and watched in frustration as bad decision after bad decision was made, and bad actor after bad actor was part of the region. That has completely changed. What I have seen happen in the last 5 years is something that you will probably read about in the next 10. And that is, you have not only do you have students that are understanding that they can actually stay in the region and take advantage of what's happening, but I think even before that, you have um, players in the entrepreneurial ecosystem that have popped up that are collaborative, that understand that we need to work together. So there are organizations like the Tech Garden in Syracuse, Z Labs in Buffalo, Start Fast Venture Accelerator in Syracuse. There are angel investor groups in Buffalo, Albany, Rochester, and Syracuse now. Key the Venture Fund that has been quietly doing its.
Oh, I think we lost connection. Oh. So Kyle, if you can still hear me, just refresh your browser and we should be all right. All right. So we lost Kyle. All right. So while our producers get back in touch with Kyle, I just wanted to let you all know that if you press the question button right here, we will be able to put your question up on screen and we can ask Kyle your question right over the air. Also, if you want to get in touch with Kyle, we have this is his Twitter account, so reach out to him on Twitter. If you have any questions about entrepreneurship, if you're looking to If you're looking for some mentorship, you have questions about how you can make your business a little bit better, Kyle provides mentorship. He is an entrepreneur in residence at the Start Fast Venture Accelerator here in Central New York. So, a very knowledgeable guy and very, very willing to help. Okay, fantastic. I think we got Kyle back on. Here we go.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm not sure what keeps happening. Where did I leave off?
So, we were talking about the Tech Garden, Start Fast, and all the other collaborative resources that people have access to now versus back in the day when those folks were not around.
Yes, so I can tell you from pure experience and somebody that's been here through it that there is a tremendous sea change. And I liken it, if you've seen the Steve Jobs biopic, I liken it to what Silicon Valley looked like in the early 70s. Um, the monumental change that's happening now, you're going to read about it.
It's awesome. So it's interesting that you mentioned all of these resources like incubators and mentors, and there's a number of classes that you can take, and the list goes on and on and on. And there's actually, from what I read in blogs, that there's a growing population of people who feel that these things are a waste of time. They feel that it's a waste of money, for the number of startup companies that are created, over 95% of them fail. And so, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that these are a waste?
So the way I think about it is this: that the region is now developing an entrepreneurial ecosystem, and I think that um, if you can think about the ecosystem as a startup,
Hmm.
startups tend to fail a lot in within the organization because they try a lot of different things until they get it right for the market and for their customers. And so I look at it as there's good and bad in everything.
Hmm.
So are there incubators that will fail over time? Absolutely. Are there or accelerators, whatever you want to call them? Are some of them bound to fail? For sure. Are people making investments in some of these startups that are not going to work? Yeah, but I look at any of these failures as a good thing, and I think if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to embrace failing because that's actually how you learn. At
Interesting.
the end of the day, I some of these forays into entrepreneurship are going to work out, and they're going to become the next uh, great companies of upstate New York, like Kodak, like Xerox, etc. Carrier Corporation. Those are in our past. Some of them are still here, but you're going to have the next XYZ that's going to come out of here because they maybe participated in some of these accelerators or incubators. Maybe they took on venture capital, but maybe they failed multiple times as co-founders or teams, but then they hit it. And when they hit it, it's going to be humongous. I don't view them as a waste of time. I view all of these activities as part of maturing of the ecosystem.
Interesting. So, we're going to entertain some questions from our viewers. So, Sarah asks, having been an EIR and a judge or mentor at many entrepreneurship events, what do you see that students do really well or help set them apart from the crowd?
Um, so, so I think sometimes they lose the notion that you actually have to profit from these things, and that there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to actually make money and to profit from these ventures. I don't think a lot of the pitches that I see don't take that into consideration. And when you're building your business, you have to sit there and say, well, if I do have a 90 or 95% chance this isn't going to work, how am I going to make a lot of money? What what is it that I can do um, that are going to increase my chances that this will succeed? Because if I don't have that going for me, chances are I'm going to be one of those 90 or 95% that don't make it. Um, so I think a lot of these guys don't think with that first after they think of their idea. They just think it might be a cool idea, so I'd like to go do it. And then they realize, well, if I don't have any money to do it, then I have to raise it from somebody. And then when somebody says, sure, I'd love to invest, um, how are you going to make money? Those and the, you kind of get a few blank stares. I think if people thought about how to actually make money with this, um, and try it out a little bit first, they'd be a lot more successful.
Interesting. So we have another question. Let's see. This question's from D. Do you have any advice for entrepreneurs who are looking to rebuild a founding team?
Don't quit. So just keep talking to people. Continue to network. Talk to as many people as you possibly can, because it's very hard to find the right people. People are the things that drive businesses, and successful teams are those that become successful. So if you build a great team, chances are you're going to be more successful than if you don't. And if you actually end up having a lot more interaction with people around what you're trying to accomplish, that is rebuilding your team, you'll be more successful. But don't give up networking and talking to people.
Awesome. Awesome. So we'll take one more question before we get back into this. So I think we have another question from Sarah. So Sarah asks, Syracuse has a strong industry of healthcare providers. Do you see any upcoming collaboration between the local entrepreneurship movement and the local health industry?
Do I see any? Well, so I guess I would answer that with, there are always ideas around healthcare. And what's tough now about healthcare is that it's difficult to drive real change when we have the kind of structural change happening with health reform. So a lot of the centers of health, be it hospitals or teaching institutions, are basically trying to find the model for their own survival. Hospitals run at very slim margins, quarter of a percent net to 1% net. They're just really tough businesses to run, and especially today with the cuts to Medicare, it's really difficult to run those institutions. And so they're really trying to survive. They're not necessarily they're trying to survive to the letter of the law that's there now. And so if you don't have anything that's going to enhance what they need around the healthcare law in terms of reducing readmissions, reducing length of stay, et cetera, anything that's going to cost and improving outcomes, anything that's going to cost them money as a result of the new law, you can't enhance that and prove it. It's tough to break into that. And so I think what you're going to see over time is a lot of healthcare dollars being spent and very few returns, or a lot of investment in healthcare, betting on red or black, and some very poor returns in that space until all of this firms up and there's some consistency in what the healthcare landscape actually looks like.
That's actually really surprising. A lot of times you hear a lot that there's so much money in healthcare, but the profit margins are so low. That's really surprising, actually.
Yeah, if you just look at the data, forget about what you hear in the news, or at your latest online rag, healthcare is a very, very tight business, and it
Mm.
depends on um, where you look. But today, if you're a provider, um, you're in trouble. You're in serious
Wow.
trouble.
Wow. Okay, so let's transition over to a burning question that I have. So I've been in Central New York now for I think eight years, I would say. I did my undergrad at SU, did my graduate degree at SU, and now I'm working at SU. Getting involved in entrepreneurship and trying to encourage more students to get involved in entrepreneurship. And one thing that I hear a lot through attending a lot of events and networking with a number of different professionals is that Central New York and upstate New York as a whole has what it takes to be what some might consider the next, Silicon Valley, New York City. And I don't know if that's necessarily an exaggeration because I've only been here for 8 years. Since you've been here for your entire life, do you think that upstate New York has that potential?
So I guess I would put that question back to you for a minute.
Okay.
You've been here for 8 years,
Yeah.
right? What have you seen happen in 8 years?
So when I first came here, I came here in 2004, 2005. And to be honest, like you said, this place was dead. Um, Downtown Syracuse was desolate. The height of my freshman, probably sophomore year was going to the mall and going to the movies. That was pretty much how you had fun in Syracuse. Since then, though, I've seen the university grow. I've seen the downtown area grow. Armory Square has been revitalized. There are restaurants and so much activity. I actually went to a number of arts festivals and community events, and this, I would say, has been, this transformation has happened within the last 5 to 6 years. I went away for a year and came back to start my graduate program. And again, there was another step in transformation. And I think it was because, for whatever reason, I saw that there was this transformation that I decided, to get involved in that transformation. I know the university took a big stance on entrepreneurship and innovation. I decided to take a class, and literally that class, I think, changed my life. As far as potential for this region, I think that there are so many untapped assets, and I think it's really going to take a collective mindset because, as you mentioned, there's still a lot of sharp elbows. There's still a lot of territorial mindset, but I think that old guard is changing with so many students coming from all over the world, investing their time, energy, and money here. There are more and more people staying. I stayed. I'm here, you know, and I think there are tons of other people like me catalyzing a change. So, 10 years from now, not that I care to be, written about, but to be able to see a ton of students that have come through this ecosystem being successful, I definitely think that that's going to happen. Um, I don't see why we can't be the next Silicon Valley or the next New York. Granted,
So
we're probably,
I can tell you it's great to hear that, right?
yeah,
It's great to hear you say that and see some of the comments that Sarah and Dee are making. But I'll even take it a step further. When I was in
okay,
school, I was, for better or for worse, chastised for the fact that I was actually from there.
wow,
And
go ahead.
so it it was not a great place to live. And so even if you had the uh, even if you had the ecosystem building, okay, you still had what I described as a dump to live in. I mean, it really was a backwards place. Um,
Mm,
and at the end of the day, if you don't have a vibrant, growing, changing, open-minded place, you're not going to get the kind of growth and collaboration that you need. I should say the collaboration, the culture that you need to get the kind of growth that we're all looking for. And so, because of what you just described, it's becoming socially acceptable to stay here. And to be honest with you, between the collaboration and the open mindset and things like these kinds of discussions, the tech garden and everything that I described that's happening throughout the region, on top of the fact that this is an extremely cheap place to build a company, whether you raise funding for it or you bootstrap it. The cost structure here it's a joke. Most people don't believe it, but if you went to New York, Chicago, LA, Boston, Miami, you're never going to get the cost um, of living that you would here. Certainly, snow has its disadvantages. I happen to think it's got great advantages. But guess what? Salt Lake, Denver, Boston, Chicago all have really, really extreme weather at times. And if you get outside and take advantage of it, it's a great place to be. So to me, it's a really great place to build a company. And what I saw this past weekend at Startup Weekend is a testament to how far we've come. And I said this to Mitchell Patterson. He's from here. He's part of the tech, runs the Tech Art and runs Startup Weekend, integral part of the ecosystem here in upstate New York. And so what I said to him was, when I first started mentoring or judging any of these things about 5 years ago, something like that, they were terrible. I mean, the pitches were a joke. There was nothing there. Fast forward to today, the effort that people have put in to any of these programs and helping students to formulate better understanding of what it takes to build a business. We actually had some really good ideas this past weekend, and probably some of those pitches will turn out to be successful companies. The
Awesome.
transformation to me is it's amazing. It's really cool to see, and you validated it, Tony. You've only been here for 8 years, and you can see an amazing change. So I do believe that this will end up being a tech hub, an entrepreneurial hub, in a very short period of time, because the ship has left the dock, and it's underway, and it's only going to get pick up speed with time and become exponential.
Awesome. So I just want to share Stacy's comment here. She says that there are so many ways to connect now that innovative people are finding each other that didn't exist when she was in college back in the 90s. So, there are plenty of people who also see the change. So I'm actually glad to be a part of that change. And I think, through conversations like these, we're going to continue to reinforce that change to keep this momentum going. I really think so. That's awesome. So just as a reminder for all of our viewers, if you would like to submit a comment, simply click on the little question button right down there, and we will ask Kyle your question live on the air. Do we have any other questions right now? Doesn't look like it. I guess I'll just take this opportunity to talk about some of the other idea chats that we're going to be hosting. So this is the first of a series of 5 idea chats that Syracuse is going to host this week as part of Global Entrepreneurship Week. And so we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship with Dee tomorrow. Dee, who also works at the university, is going to be hosting a chat with Lauren Covington. And the topic for their chat is going to be art and entrepreneurship and technology. And so throughout the entire week, we're going to be touching on different topics such as media, technology, and really focus on topics that really will change the face not only of Central New York but of the world. So check out the lineup. Feel free to just click this link anytime. And yeah, thank you all for participating. Kyle, did you have any questions for me or for maybe any of our viewers out there?
So I'd be curious to see if anybody that's watching this now has the same experience that I have or you have, Tony, in what they actually see around the region. And certainly, uh, if they wanted to submit a comment here, that would be great. Or if they wanted to reach out to me directly, that would be great. But
Sure.
I
I mean, we
think
can
the
even
more
invite them on the air. I mean, if
that
anyone
would be
wants to get on the air, we can join the chat right now. Just send me a request. If you want to join the request, you can either submit a request through our chat and I can put you on the air, or you can submit a comment. Just give folks a second to check that out.
and if nothing
Uh,
else,
mhm.
if
Let's
nothing else, I would just be curious as to where they see the region going.
hmm hmm. Let's uh let's see if we can get Sarah on the air. Let's see. All right, so while we're trying to figure out if we're working out Sarah's technology. Oh, wait a minute. I think, all right, I think we're working on it. While we're trying to get her on the air, I actually had a question about your experience this weekend. So you mentioned something called Startup Weekend. What exactly was Startup Weekend?
So Startup Weekend's a collaboration weekend that basically you have a business idea, you come to Startup Weekend, pitch it, and then find and collaborate and find team members around that idea. And in 54 hours, can you come up with a business? And interestingly enough, the winner, Music Mashable, came up with a business, a site, and actually paying customers to the tune of $1,000, all in 54 hours. And they won first prize, and and they're going to take the business and keep going with it.
Oh,
So
wow, that's awesome.
it's really cool to see. You get some smart people in the room, some energetic people in the room. I think they had about 150 people come to Startup Weekend this year, and collaborate on different ideas. I think about 50 pitches boiled down to 15 ideas that were basically developed in that 54-hour time frame. And at the end of the
Wow.
weekend, that's what they came up with. It's a pretty cool business. It ends up being what I liken to American Idol for a weekend. Music Mashable was the name of the winner, and they create collaboration between musicians to create songs in the course of a weekend, and then create a concert at the end, and leverage venues to have the concert and sell tickets. And they sold $1,000 worth of tickets to an idea that had never been promoted before,
Really?
and it's pretty cool.
Wow, that's incredible. If we can actually pull up any information about Music Mashup Weekend, we'd certainly love to support their business. Okay, I think Sarah is ready. I think she's just plugging them in right now. So Sarah, whenever you're ready, just give us the okay. Okay, so if you want to learn more about Music Mashup Weekend, the website is musicmashupweekend.com. And again, that is a collaborative weekend for any musician or artist to collaborate with artists like them in their community to produce awesome music and, yeah, build a community. Okay, so I think Sarah's ready. Here we go. Where is she? We're just waiting for her to get on. Hey, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Oh, what happened?
Bye, Sarah.
Okay, whoops. Let's try that again. Sarah, you there?
All right, this keeps getting patched on me.
Okay, we hear you, Sarah.
Can you hear me? You can hear me?
Yeah,
Yep.
All right. Okay, good.
awesome.
Yeah, sorry, it's getting a little patchy over here.
It's
But yeah, I think
okay.
there's a lot going on in Syracuse right now. Especially with StartFast being an accelerator that has companies from all over the world come in. And then you've got Student Startup Labs, or the Startup Labs, which is another accelerator, which is only 22 days long, really allowing companies to get moving and get a nice start with a lot of prize money at the end of it. There's a lot that's bringing people to Syracuse for entrepreneurship, which I think is really exciting.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Sarah. Where are you from?
I'm also a Syracuse local. I was born and raised here, and then I left for a while going to college, and then living abroad for a little while, and then came back to get my master's at Newhouse. And I really didn't plan on staying at all, but in the year that I was back here, seeing how much has changed and how much has happened in the entrepreneurship scene in Syracuse, and how many people are trying to make Syracuse a better place, definitely brought me back and made me very interested in staying. So I just recently graduated with my master's, and now have a startup that I'm working on called Platypus
Oh, what's your
TV.
startup?
Very cool.
What's your startup, Sarah? I'm just curious.
It's called Platypus TV. It's a social television platform that timestamps conversations.
Oh,
So
nice.
it timestamps conversations. Almost it's similar almost to what Spreecast is doing, but we don't host any content. And so you'd be able to have comments at what time that came up on the side, but you'd be able to watch through whatever service that you normally use, whether it's Netflix or any other sort of streaming that you do.
Nice. So actually, you know what? Let's just ask right now. So you're local, but
Mm-hmm.
why did you decide to stay? Why are you still here?
Because I think that there's so much going on in Syracuse. There's the great opportunity about being here right now is that with so much going on, and it's almost kind of it's a very small area, you get access to people that you wouldn't have in Boston or New York or Silicon Valley. So, for example, last week the Newhouse Advisory Board met, and because we're in Syracuse and so many people are traveling to Syracuse, we ended up with a huge number of meetings that we would have had to really fight for and try to make some very like in-depth contacts with if we were in another place. But because we were in Syracuse and people were excited to meet with us, we had the opportunity to chat with people that are very high up in industries and who are very interested in assisting us with our startup.
Nice.
So that's a
Nice.
huge benefit to being in Syracuse.
Nice. Is there anything that you wanted to ask Kyle while you're here?
Well, I already asked him a couple questions, but actually, how did you like being an entrepreneurship or an entrepreneur in residence? How was that?
It's
Can you tell us
cool.
a
I
little bit
mean,
about that experience?
yeah, it's like watching a reality TV show right in front of your face in real life. Um, you know, I am a big believer in the fact that people need a break, right? And that helps people succeed. I want to be around successful people, and that people that actually get up off the couch and do something. And if I can help, if it's the smallest thing, from a conversation all the way to a discussion about uh, structuring your business model or an introduction into a potential customer. I'm all about helping people to catch a break, and so that's why I joined on to Start Fast when they asked, and it was just a really cool experience. You know, especially when you had people from all around the country um, come to Syracuse for 3 months and get an idea as to what this place is actually all about. So it, it really ends up putting the place on the map. And you know, when you show them that we have substantial intellectual capital and everything else we've talked about on this during this discussion, it becomes a pretty impressive place in a short period of time. I thought it was pretty cool.
Nice. So thank you, Sarah, for coming on the air. We're actually going to wrap up now. So thanks, Sarah. All right. So, um, oh, man. So key takeaways from this conversation. What I gathered from you was that, you know, if you want to take that step to be an entrepreneur, it's about seeing an opportunity, taking advantage of it, right?
Yep.
Another thing is taking advantage of the resources around you. So that's not just, you know, capital in the form of dollars, but capital in the form of people as well. I think
Yep.
it's important for us all to realize that we have to be the change we want to see in the world. And I think, you know, upstate New York is a great of, you know, taking something old and revitalizing it simply, you know, with the people who care and the people who live here.
And I think you also need to be able to embrace failure. Do not be afraid
Oh,
to fail.
totally.
Failing is learning. If you fail, you're getting one step closer to succeeding.
That's awesome. I think you can take that and run with that in life. I think that's a
Yep,
good life
that's true.
lesson.
That's that's true.
That's a life lesson. Okay, so thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kyle, for, you know, taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today.
No problem.
For anyone that joined the chat later, um, you can watch the entire idea chat from beginning to end. Everything has been recorded, and there's also information. So if you're a student and you're watching and you haven't participated in a startup weekend before, try to find a startup weekend to go to. Honestly, it will change your life. We actually asked the audience, you know, if the experience changed their lives, and at least half of the audience raised their hands. Truly, truly a great experience. And if you are a startup and you're looking for some tech services, many of the student teams that participated in the Startup Week in Syracuse this past weekend use squarespace.com. So check out squarespace.com for low-cost solutions for your web needs. And again, thank you, Kyle, for your time. And you can reach Kyle at, let's put his handle up. It's at
Kyle Blumin, KYLEBLUMIN, at Kyle Blumin.
All right. So if you have any
And
questions,
I'd be happy to talk to anybody that has questions.
Awesome. So again, thank you, Kyle. I'm going to say goodbye.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. And for all of our viewers, feel free to check out the other idea chats that we're going to have this week. Tomorrow, we're going to be chatting with Lauren Covington, the principal at Noir Flux. Dee is going to be hosting that idea chat, excuse me, and they're going to be talking about the role of art in a technology-driven society. On Wednesday, we're going to be talking to Jonathan Francis, the COO of Elite Daily, and one of the Idea Connectors, a student ambassador for entrepreneurship here at Syracuse, is going to talk about how Generation Y, how do 20-somethings look at media. Media is changing rapidly, and these are a group of young professionals who decided to take on the challenge of what media will look like in the 21st century. On Thursday, we're going to be talking to a student entrepreneur. So for all of those that are looking to take that step while they're in school, we're going to be talking with Carrie McGuire. And the title of that idea chat is Starting from the Bottom, and Now We're Here. Lessons learned from a budding entrepreneur. He's going to talk about his struggles. You know, we often talk a lot about the good side, the bright side of entrepreneurship. But in this chat, we're going to take a look at some of the tough times that entrepreneurs face. And on Friday, we're actually doing a double header. So first, we're going to be talking to James Torrio of McKinsey Digital Labs, and we're going to talk about innovation in product design. Another idea connector, Akshat, is going to host that event. And then we're going to talk to Steve Seeger, the Director of Communication at the International Association of Business Communicators. And we're going to talk about innovation, and not just any innovation, aggressive innovation. What exactly will it take for you to stand out from all of those that you're competing against in whatever market that you are trying to get involved in? So the link for the schedule is below. There it is. And again, thank you everyone for submitting your awesome questions. And we will see you tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay? So you can RSVP for the event below. And the link, again, is right here. My name is Tony. Signing off. You can reach me on Twitter at Tony Fried Baloney, or